Good news, hopefully, this week I should say, for people that are trying to pay off a house. Now, as you know, in Australia, a third of people have paid off your homes. Well done to you. It's hard work, right? A third of people are trying to pay off their homes because of a mortgage. A third of people rent. Presumably, of course, they are in homes of which some people are trying to pay off their homes, which means interest rates matter. Now, they should have cut them last month. The expectation was 99% chance of it happening, but just like Hillary being president, it didn't. So we have to wait and watch for it to actually happen. There will be a meeting that will take place this week. In fact, starts tomorrow. Announcement happens the following day. And again, the speculation all points in one direction. It is time for interest rates yet again to come down in Australia. This is a point being made on our news services today by an economist from KPMG.
That was in the large cohort of economists that thought they were going to do it last month as well. But they held on because they wanted to see the CPI data for the quarter. That overwhelmingly showed that inflation was continuing to trend down and was well within the target band. And after that CPI data, I had written that there's absolutely now nothing stopping the Reserve Bank from cutting rates by at least 25 basis points at its meeting on Monday and Tuesday.
All right, still dealing with money stuff. Let's talk about Grim Jim. Grim Jim Chalmers. Now, remember, this bloke says that he's going to need more than even these 3 years to help remake the Australian economy, to remake capitalism. So not only did you need to vote for him once, do it a second time, you're going to have to do a third for him to slowly get to where he wants to go. And why? Because this great, big, beautiful brain is, of course, dealing with the Australian federal budget. And the truth of the Australian federal budget is that all of us get, and I don't, you don't, but most other people, they get distracted by whatever this week's announcement is. What's in it for you? Put this number into the calculator and work out how much they've announced this year for you to get back, and it'll be, $4 a week or something. But the reality is that the Australian budget is so stuffed that even left-wing, things like the Saturday paper, well, they tell us the truth, that we've got deficits for at least the next 10 years where the government will spend more money than it has money coming in, despite the fact that each and every year more money comes in. And what we talk about is a structural deficit, when the government, no matter how hard they try, will continue to spend more money than they make because the promises they have made all supercharge spending. In fact, the intergenerational report, which I've shown you 450 times, is that inside that rectangle is a budget deficit every single year until 2063. Just to give you an idea of the timing there, the Jetsons, the 1960s cartoon, was set in 2062. So flying cars and Astro, and we'll still be in budget deficits. But if you put one column on top of another column, on top of another column, and another column, and another column, and another column, when we already start at $1 trillion debt because of the way these people have built and abused the political system and promised more money on spending than they will ever get coming in, that means deficits. And there's a whole series of people who say deficits don't matter because no one's ever going to call the debt in. It's not like a household economy. But of course, the problem is that you still have to pay debt as it goes. And if it's only 100 million, it costs this much. Well, guess what happens when we get to $1 trillion? And then 2, and then 3. And then eventually, the number one thing the Australian federal government will be doing is paying off debt in order to keep racking up debt. Which is why, supposedly, one of the great things that's coming in the next couple of weeks with this economic reform roundtable is a whole bunch of new ideas in order to balance up the system. Now, of course, Australian politics is very, very clear. You can't cut $1 in spending, because if you cut $1 in spending or you don't deliver the $5 in promised spending 10 years into the future, that's a cut. And we know how cut politics works and has now for the best part of 20 years. We are in a world of trouble. So if we're going to increase the spending, but we don't want to increase the deficits, then of course there's only one way to balance the books, the T word.
Tax.
Which is why economists say things like the GST should be increased. The suggestion they're going that it should go across everything, not things that are currently exempt, and it should go up to 15%. The only problem is we don't even make $100 billion out of the GST. Instead, personal income tax is the best part of $300 billion. So we still wouldn't be able to touch the sides. And the Prime Minister has made it very clear, after people like myself have turned around and said, hang on, what, you're going to increase taxes? Where was this promise at the last election? Well, of course, he knows that if he increases taxes, he's going to aggravate a whole bunch of people, which is why he says this.
Our tax policy, the only tax policy that we're implementing, is the one that we took to the election.